episode of Dragon Ball Super, Mr. Satan goes Super Saiyan and fights against the Thundercats. Dragon Ball Super, I'm gonna give you some credit. You actually make me like Mr. Satan. I used to hate this character with a screaming passion. Now I'm actually gonna look forward to these goofy comedic episodes starring everybody's favorite afroed loser. So the setup of this week's episode is very simple, and I especially loved how last week's preview sort of made it seem like the entire episode was just going to be about Mr. Satan actually recalling his battles with Lord Beebus, the god of destruction. That's actually what he calls him when he's recalling his story. But no, that's only a short part of it, but what's really funny is, of course, we get to see Mr. Satan go Super Saiyan, even his mustache. It is freaking hilarious. It's an image that will be burned into my brain forever and will undoubtedly be one of the new most popular cosplay. What's really funny about Mr. Satan's story that he's making up for the press is the way he sort of dresses it up, even Beerus himself. He makes him look like this demonic bat creature from hell, which honestly I like the design of it. As far as I'm concerned, they could have just made that another one of the gods of destruction. That being said, in the middle of this conference, out of nowhere, Earth is seemingly invaded by a group of cat-like aliens known as the Sunakians, who also have this very strange and suggestive dance. But actually, these cat aliens are not here to destroy the Earth. They're here to actually thank the hero who saved them all from Lord Beerus. And of course, that has to be Mr. Satan. So they show their gratitude by bringing out their strongest warrior, who decides to have a sparring match with Mr. Satan. As you can imagine at this point, Mr. Satan is pretty much shitting his britches. However, Lady Luck continues to shine on the spongy-headed martial artist as he gets a lot of help from his dog Bee and Goku. Goku's scene in particular is really random, but it's very funny because it's following this other subplot where Chi-Chi is trying to get Goku to get a job because Gohan's about to be a dad, and it is so adorkable. I hate that I had to say that word of watching him try to be like a good father and husband to Videl. It's actually kind of nice getting to see some of the characters in a more subdued setting, although I still have to admit I would still love to see Gohan go back to the old days when he was destroying cell clones. But like I was saying, Goku is desperately trying to find a job, but he finds himself constantly slacking off, and he runs into Mr. Satan, who's having this big little small tournament in the middle of the city, and Goku gets all excited, and he actually agrees to actually fight against this guy. But when Chi-Chi and Piccolo just happen to walk by because they're buying supplies for Videl and Gohan, she gets really angry, and Goku has to decide to get out of there, but he does it in one of the most stupid, ridiculous fashions, where he asks Mr. Satan to punch him in the face, and he's gonna make it seem like he flies away. So Mr. Satan just like taps Goku on the face, so Goku doesn't just fly off, he gets a little running start, then he flies away, and before he even leaves, he dips back down, grabs his tractor, pulls it up into the air, and flies over the building. One of the funniest things I have seen from the entire series. So the episode ends with Mr. Satan constantly running away from this giant monster who goes by the name of Garbi, who is just throwing these punches left and right, but Mr. Satan's dodging, and honestly, I think if he'd have fought back just a little bit, he might have actually had a chance. In fact, I thought that's what was going to happen when Goku said, "This is your fight, this is like your big opportunity." But no, Mr. Satan manages to just squeak by thanks to his dog Bee. You see, these cat aliens are deathly afraid of dogs. In fact, when they're actually making their way to the planet, the first thing they're looking at is this image of a poodle, which really freaks them out. And when Bee decides to jump into the ring, this guy just completely freezes right as he's about to deck Mr. Satan in the face. Mr. Satan punches him in the stomach, which doesn't do really anything, but this guy is so freaked out and scared that they immediately run back to their spaceships and leave Earth. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super? This was just a straight-up comedy episode, which I really didn't have a problem with. You know, I think real Dragon Ball fans actually do appreciate the comedy of the series. It is incredibly reminiscent of the original Dragon Ball series, and Mr. Satan, like I said, is a character who you either love or you hate. I used to hate him. Now I think he's hilarious, and a lot of that I think has to do with his voice actor, who unfortunately I just do not know his name, but I know he's also the same voice of Joseph Joestar, and he's been popping up in a lot of other different series. Another thing that I just think, just a lot of little funny things, like when the aliens actually like come down to Earth for the first time, everybody's completely freaked out, and they really shouldn't be. I mean, despite the fact that they are aliens, they look like every other weird anthropomorphic animal people that actually live on the planet, which have not really been showing up as much. I wonder really what's up with that. You know, mostly just humans lately. I haven't seen too many of them. But that's beside the point. The other thing that I really loved about this episode was the subplot with Goku and him trying to escape from Chi-Chi. The scene with the tractor, like I said, one of the funniest things I've ever seen because it was not graceful at all. Goku has the ability to move at instantaneous speed, and he decides to get out of there like a ninja wearing orange. Like Naruto! On the technical side of things, this week's episode looked pretty good. You know, not too much action in terms of, like, really crazy animation, and I think this was a missed opportunity. I think it would have been really fun to actually see that story of Mr. Satan as a Super Saiyan fighting against Lord Beerus. I think that would have looked really freaking awesome. The rest of the artwork and the animation was pretty clean and consistent for the most part. Lots of bright, inviting colors, so it was an okay-looking episode of Dragon Ball Super. But this was sort of a side comedy episode, and I really think it did a pretty good job at that. I don't think everybody's going to like this episode, but I found myself laughing and smiling quite a bit. I am a really big Dragon Ball fan, so I might be a little biased. I think most people will consider this a painfully average episode of Dragon Ball Super at best, like a 3 or a 2 out of 5. I loved this one personally, and I think we need these breaks, especially after a big arc before we jump into the next one. So I'm going to give this episode right here a 4 out of 5. Mr. Satan going Super Saiyan is one of the funniest things I've ever seen, and those cat aliens doing their dance is just ridiculous. And that's just a couple of moments. Not to mention there are some pretty cool Easter eggs in this episode, like when Majin Buu is actually reading Neko Majin Z, which is the spin-off comedy manga from Akira Toriyama. Check it out if you want to get some laughs. So yeah, I like this episode, but I want to hear from you guys. Did you watch this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super? Are you a fan of Mr. Satan? Did you get some laughs from this week's episode? What do you want to see from the next arc of Dragon Ball Super? It looks like in the next episode, Whis is going to be returning, and it looks like he's also going to be treated to a banquet. So make sure to tell me all of your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby! Sue, sue, sue! Na, na, na! Have fun sleeping tonight.